Hello and welcome to this video blog. This time we're going to be discussing resizing and cropping. Now the main reason that you'd probably want to resize one of your photographs is for printing it for an album or for a photo frame. First of all, I would suggest that you find yourself a print lab and check what sizes they do. Different ones do different sizes, but most of them will do the standard sizes. Such as 4x6, 5x7, 8x10 and 8x12. So once you've found your print lab, what you're going to want to do obviously is send your image away to be printed, but first you need to make sure that it's the correct size for printing. So we're going to jump in and resize this image. This image here was taken in Milan, and at the moment I couldn't tell you what the aspect ratio is on it, but I'm going to make it an 8x12 for printing. So what we do is we come over here to the crop tool. This is by far and away the easiest way of doing it. Come over to the crop tool, select the crop tool, and this bar will appear. I call it the crop bar. It appears underneath the menu bar. Some of you might have noticed that I'm using Photoshop Elements, but it's the same process whether you're using, in my case it's Photoshop Element 7, it's the same process whether you're using this version, the most recent version being number 12, or whether you're using Photoshop CS 5, 6 or even CC. Very, very similar process. So what I've done is I've taken the bar and I've blown it up a bit so that I can show you. The first option is the aspect ratio. Then you've got the width, the height, and the resolution. And I'm going to go through each one of those one at a time, but I'll explain what each one does as I'm going through it. So back to the image, and the first option is aspect ratio. Now at the moment it's set to no restriction, which means that I can make the crop any dimension I want. And you can simply do this by going to the top corner, pulling across, and you can see that there's a square appeared, and I can make this square as thin and narrow as I want, or as tall and narrow, or as tall and fat as I want. And if I click OK, tick arrow, it adjusts it. I'm going to undo that. That was simply to show that how the crop tool works with no restriction. You can literally make it any piece that you want. That's how it works. The next option down on the list is use photo ratio. So if you choose that option, what it does is it takes these dimensions and it keeps that ratio. So when you draw your box this time, you can't make it go thinner, it always sticks to the ratio of the photograph. I don't know what the ratio of this photograph is, so if I was sending it off for printing, that's not very helpful. So what I'm going to do now is I'll cancel that, go back to the next option, and the next one on the options list here is 2.5 by 2 inches. So if I choose that option, when I drag across, it shows you that this shorter side is the 2 inches obviously, and the slightly longer side will be the 2.5, and it keeps it in that ratio. It's as simple as that. Going down the list, the next one is 3x5, 4x6, 5x5, 5x7 and 8x10. Now I've already said that some of the standard sizes are, for example, 4x6, so I could just select that one. That changes the box to a 4x6 ratio. Pop it right to the corner and pull it across, and you can see that it's just hitting the edge of my picture now, but it's going to crop off a little bit at the bottom, and by clicking and dragging I've just pulled that down, and now what it's doing is it's going to crop off the top, because to me the bottom part of this image is far more important than a strip of sky. If I click OK, That's just made it 4 inches by 6 inches in ratio, and that's it. And it changes up here. You can see width 6 inches, height 4 inches. Now the resolution one is currently blank. I'm going to cover that in a second. But again, if I wanted to, I'll undo that crop. So that's been back to the original photograph and come down to 8 by 10. Select that. Now when I drag across, my box is in the 8 by 10 ratio. And as you can see, 8 by 10 ratio actually crops off quite a bit of my sides, which I don't want. So that ratio would not work for this photograph. If you specifically had an 8 by 10 frame, sorry, but your picture is not going to look its best in that frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually choose an 8 by 12. I'm going to come up to the top, and where it now says 10, because that's obviously the width, which is the longest part of the image, in this image, it's currently saying 10 by 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change that to 12. And now when I drag across, I'm getting a little bit extra, and you can see that it's the same ratio actually is the 4 by 6, because obviously 8 by 12 is double 4 by 6. So it's giving me the same ratio. And when I click OK, so an 8 by 12 would work well with this picture for framing purposes. Now the one part that it has left blank is the resolution. Most print labs will ask for a standard size of a 300 pixel per inch resolution. So in this box here, I'm going to select it and I'm going to type in 300. I'm going to keep the 12 by 8 ratio because that works. Just going to select my image again and click OK. And you can see that it resized it a little bit there. It actually dropped it back. It made it smaller. And that's the resolution part kicking in. It makes the resolution fit that picture. So when I send it off to print, the print lab will now receive a 12 by 8 sized image at 300 pixels per inch, which is good enough for printing. What I'm going to do is show you a couple of things that you can do in here. We'll go back to the original picture, so undo my crop, and I'll undo it again so I get that extra bit of sky that we're cropping off. You can change up here in this aspect ratio, because I typed in 12, because there wasn't an 8 by 12 ratio, it now says custom. And in these width and height boxes, you can enter whatever values you would like. If you want it in inches, you simply put a space and put IN for inches, and if you want it in centimeters, you put CM for centimeters. If you are into your photography and you know specific pixel ratios, now some club, for example, they will ask for an image to be resized to maybe 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels. So what you can do is you can put in the pixel value, space followed by px for pixel, and that will resize in the same way. So again, if I was to change this to I don't know, 21 space cm for centimeters, 21 centimeters by, I'm just off the top of my head, 10 centimeters, 10 space cm, and when I draw my box, that box is to that size. So again, if you had a specific size of frame, then you could choose or enter those values. Again, for printing, keep it to 300 pixels per inch. And that's the majority of it. There's one more thing that I would say when it comes to cropping and resizing, and especially sending off for a print lab. Color image. Here we go. Color image. Now I'm going to take it as an 8 by 10 image. keep in my 300 dpi, or pixels per inch, draw my box. There is an 8x10, and I'm quite happy that it's chopping off a bit of that on the right hand side. It's nothing of major importance. The main importance in this image is the hills here and the buildings in the foreground, and this piece of banister. So I'm going to select that, happy with that. Now, most print labs will ask for the, and this is changing from the cropping and resizing, but most print labs, I will mention it now because it's part of the printing process. Most print labs will ask for the color profile of that image to be set to sRGB. And basically that tells the printer what colours you're seeing should be printed on the printer, provided of course you've got a calibrated monitor. But it's basically a kind of standardised format for printing. With Photoshop Elements, it couldn't be simpler. You simply come over to the image and down to Convert Color Profile, and it gives you a little arrow and the sub menu pops up. And you've got three options. It says Remove Color Profile, Apply sRGB Profile, and Apply Adobe RGB Profile. Now currently, my Apply sRGB Profile is greyed out. That is because this image already has the profile sRGB. So I don't need to change that, because that's correct for sending off to most print labs. But you need to check that, because if you were in the Adobe RGB and you send it off to get printed, you'll get it back and you might say the colours are not quite so vibrant. So having it set to the sRGB profile should mean that what you're seeing on a calibrated monitor comes back and it looks the same. So all I would do next is I would save this, and I'm going to save it onto my desktop. So I'm happy with the size. It's an 8x10 image. Change the resolution to the correct resolution, and I know that it's an sRGB file. So what I'm going to do is go File, Save As on my desktop, and I'm going to rename this image. I'm going to call it India, because that's where the picture was taken. I'm going to put in a space, and then I'm going to say 8x10, 8x10, and I'm going to save that. It comes up JPEG options. I'm going to make sure that it's in the largest file size, up to the 12, and OK that. Now the reason I called my image India 8x10 is so that when I'm uploading that to the PrintLab site, I can see that if, for example, I had some that were 4x6, and some that were 5x7, and some that were 8x10, I know which ones are 8x10s, which ones are 5x7s, and which are 4x6s. So I can make sure that I'm ordering the correct size for the correct file. And that's it. Couldn't be simpler. Thanks very much for watching. Bye now.